Welcome back to Developer's Home. In earlier video, we have discussed about Docker basic concepts, and we have pulled one image from Docker Hub and created our first Docker container. In this blog, what we are gonna do is we are gonna create one web server from the scratch, and then we'll deploy that web server on a Docker container. So before starting this, what you can do is I normally use Visual Studio Code, and I have installed few plugins like GitHub. So you can also do that. And if you go to my GitHub and if you search this Docker, you will have one basic application which is having main.python and then Docker file. So this will be helpful during this deploying our first application on Docker. So if I open my code, so what I can show you here is I have one very basic web server created. So this is basic main.python code where I'm using Fast API for creating web server. So what I am doing is like a very basic API call. When we do this API call, it will be printing this JSON message, which is hello world. So what we normally do is when we run this application, I will just do this. So it will start one web server. We'll click on this and this will open our web server and it will say that hello world. So this is very basic web server we have created. Now we want to deploy this web server on Docker. So what we want to do is let's stop this web server. And when we want to create Docker container or Docker image, we need to create Docker file. And in that Docker file, we need to mention that, okay, these are the steps we want to perform. So our first step is we need Python 3.8 or any specific Python version. So let's consider that when you are creating Docker image, you have one vanilla Linux system available. And now what are the steps you are gonna do with that Linux server? Same steps we need to follow here. So what we are first saying is I need Python 3.8. So when you say that, okay, from and Python 3.8 or from or anything, first step it will do is it will go to Docker Hub and get Python 3.8 Docker container. So it will go to Docker Hub and search Python 3.8, and if there is a Docker image available with that, first it will pull that Docker image which is having Python 3.8. So that is our base image. And after that, on that base image, we are gonna do few of the operations. So we wanna run this our Python code. So basically we need to move this code into that Docker container or that Linux package or Linux server. So we are first saying that copy my main.python into that image. So we are saying that create web server as a one page. And then second step is copy this from here to there. Next step is here we are using Fast API and UVCon for creating our web server. So we are saying that after that install Fast API, install UVCon. So this will be the packages install. So basically what we need to do is what we are gonna do, what are the steps you wanna perform, we'll just list down. So step by step it will follow that and it will create image for us. Last step is we say that, okay, I want to make web server where I have my code. I want to keep that as my working directory. And last step is I want to execute this. So same way earlier we have written that UVCon main app and reload. Same thing we are saying that, and we want to say that, okay, run on this host, and that's all we are doing. So first step is we have our Docker file. Now we'll create Docker image and then we'll create container from there. So our next step, which is I will say that, okay, I need new terminal, and here I will gonna use a bash as my terminal. And now I need to create that Docker image. So if you also follow this, you will get that commands from here. So I am just saying that, okay, I want to create one image and with name web server. So here I'm going, let's see in which directory I am. Okay, I'm on a same directory, and now I am saying that docker build, which is used to create image, and then dot, it means on this current directory, and underscore t web server, which is I'm giving the name of that image. So when I enter this, it will follow all the steps from here. So first step is it is loading this Python 3.8 from Docker Hub. That is the first step. So you see this is the first step it followed. Second step is copy this code. Third step is installing this. Fourth step is this. Fifth is this one. And this is how we have our images available with us. So now if I go here and say Docker image ls, so I might be having this image, which is I have web server. And now same way, if you go to a Docker desktop, if you find that instead of writing commands, this desktop tool is helpful, you can use that one also. And earlier video, we have created this 2 container. I'm just dropping that because that is not anymore required. And if we can use these ports, because you know that if I want to run this application on 8,000 ports, I need to make sure that that port is not used earlier. If I go here, so now we have our image available. Our next step is to create container. So this is our image available, and our next step is create container. So what I will do is I will copy this, and now I will go here and say that use this web server as my image, and I want to create one container, and I am binding this with 8,000 to 8,000 port. And currently I am not giving any name, so let it Docker give any random name. That is also fine. So now I am saying that let's start my application, and here I say waiting for application startup complete, and this application is running on port 8,000. Okay, so now if I go here and I can see that okay, this image is in a use. I have one container with this name, and this is running. So now if I go here and I say, so this is running on port 8,000, or it's like 127.0.0.1. Let's say I want to go inside this container and want to see that, okay, what all things are happen. So if I click on this, you say CLI. So now I am currently in this Docker container. And now if I say, okay, LSL, so here I see that, okay, I have, because currently I have my working directory as a web server, and that's why it's straight away displaying this one. But if I go before this, and now let's say, okay, so this is, you see, it's our basic Linux system, and here we have all the folders for that. And now if I go into CD web server, where we know that we have move our code. So this is the same way, you see main.python file which we have moved. So this is our file. Okay, good. And now if I do pip3 list, so I can see that okay, I requested for these are the 2 specific Ubicon and fast API packages to be installed. So this is at the end we understanding that okay, this is the plain Linux image, and these are the steps we ask them to perform. And then at the end we said okay, run this application. So now this Docker container is ready, and our application is deployed on this Docker container. I'm coming out of this, and I say that okay, all good. So this is how we can go inside Docker container. So we have successfully deployed our web server on Docker. And now from the very basic to complex application, if you want to deploy on Docker, if you want to create image, if you want to create container, you can do this. This is the basic concept you can use. And there are, you know, that some of the Docker commands, like if you want to see that, let's say I have this Docker container running, and I know name of that. I want to see that, okay, how it is doing now. It means, you know, that what are the CPU and memory it uses. So there is command docker states which say that, okay, this is using around 1% of CPU. This is the memory it consumes. And we can have, that details from here. So this is about Docker stack, but there are multiple commands. If you go to Docker official website, you can also have all the commands, but very basic command is like creating your Docker image, starting Docker container, assigning name, bind your ports with that. So these are the very basic commands you can use in your daily life, and this is also we're gonna use in our future for deploying our projects using Docker. In our next video, we're gonna discuss about Docker Compose. If in case you wanna deploy complex applications which is containing, that a database and then app server and multiple things involved. So how can we deploy that? We're gonna discuss that in our next video. Till then, see you and thanks for watching my video.